Joseph Parker's back, and this one could be an easy one. I'm Teekosey, and this is with just 15 defeats. Welcome to the show. I'm your host Teekosey, and in today's show we're going to be discussing Joseph Parker's next fight. And in this fight he's going to be fighting Sullivan Haumono. So thanks for joining me, and I really hope you enjoy what I've got to say on this upcoming fight. If you like what you see, hit the thumbs up button. And also, if you're new to the channel, remember to click subscribe for all the latest previews on the heavyweight division. So, Joseph Parker, Sullivan Haumono. It's not quite the fight that we were expecting next for Joseph Parker. After the big fight against Takam, a lot of people were expecting him to continue making that step up. Instead, what we see is that he's fighting Haumono. Now, first of all, who is he? Because I'm sure most people will never have heard of him, never have seen him fight, and not really know that much about him. So just a brief summary of what Haumono is about. He's an ex-rugby player. So if you're a rugby fan, you may know of him. I believe he's played around the world. I'm not a big rugby fan myself, so I can't really tell you much about him in that respect, as to whether he was a decent player or not. I believe he played in London for a while. But anyway, as I say, he's an ex-rugby player. He took 2 years out of the sport to commence a boxing career, racked up 8-0 record, but then decided to go back to his rugby roots and continue with that for quite a few years before returning to boxing in 2007. So since 2007 he's been building his career in the boxing world. The unfortunate situation for him is that he is 40 years old now. So he obviously got into boxing for the second time when he was around 33, 34. So in terms of his boxing life, he's missed out on quite a few valuable years. I suppose it's a balance. As I say, I don't know how successful he was in rugby, so he may have been very successful, and as that career was dwindling down, he was running out of steam, he decided to move across to boxing. So does he have any notable results on his resume as a boxer? Well, the easy answer is no. The easy answer is no. He's got a record of 24 wins with 21 stoppages and 2 defeats, 1 stoppage. Right? So in terms of the victories, there isn't really anyone that stands out as any kind of top talent. The defeats, one was against a chap who was 3-0 who has pretty much retired, I believe, and the other one was a comprehensive defeat to Kevin Johnson, who we know very well. He's challenged for world title honours, but in recent years has just become a complete punch bag and has lost to the likes of Fury, Chisora, Anthony Joshua, etc. Does not have much to give, but between these defeats he managed to completely outclass Haumono and stop him late on. The only two things that I found interesting about some of the fights that Haumono's had was that he fought a guy called Hughie. The fight was stopped very, very quickly for a disqualification. When his opponent dropped him, he caught him with a fantastic punch. Haumono landed on the deck, and his opponent, Hoisio, decided to jump him and hit him while he was down on the ground, similar to what we see in MMA, UFC type fights. So I don't quite know what was going on there, but the fight was a disqualification, a victory for Haumono. And the other match that I found somewhat interesting was that he fought a Japanese guy, an ex-K1 kickboxing champion called Fujimoto, and at the time he was undefeated 5-0 since moving across from kickboxing to pro boxing, and Haumono knocked him out. But what is of note of this is basically another classic case of horrific refereeing, because Haumono knocked the guy down. The guy got up, he was shaky, didn't know where he was. The referee wasted loads of time looking around, and in the end let the fight continue, and in the end he got savagely knocked out, and that was a knockout that could have been avoided. But anyway, that guy's gone on to continue to box and has won the rest of his fights to date without stepping up his competition. So how has this fight come to be made? Two reasons, I suspect. One, he is a New Zealander. I think he lives in Australia, but he's a New Zealander, so there's that kind of connection. And Haumono has moved in to the top 15 rankings of the WBA. The WBA, I think it was primarily due to the fight that he had, his last fight. He's moved in. Looking at the website, currently he is ranked 11th behind Trevor Bryan and Gerald Miller, Joseph Parker, Stavern, Briggs, Hay, Oquendo, Ustinov, Klitschko and Ortiz. So that's the standing, and that's probably why this fight is more, well, it's been made, because if in the global thought of the rankings, when we consider everyone that's about, Haumono probably isn't even ranked top 50. So it's not that interesting as a prospect. It's not a fight that people will be particularly looking forward to. So just quickly, let's talk about Haumono, what he's got to offer. As I say, he's an ex-rugby player, so he's in shape, he's an athlete, he's going to come in fantastic shape. His skills are particularly limited. They are particularly limited. Doesn't have a particularly good jab, doesn't have a particularly good defence, doesn't have particularly good speed, but he does have a little bit of power, and he has a little bit of all of the basics. So he will trouble some people, but anyone with a touch of class, like we saw against Kevin Johnson, he's going to be comprehensively dispatched. So in terms of this fight, let's talk about Joseph Parker now. So Joseph Parker's been climbing up those rankings, and he's now the IBF mandatory challenger. And he's decided to take this fight in a quick turnaround following his victory over Carlos Takam. Now, the Carlos Takam was a interesting fight. It was a fight that I think most heavyweight boxing fans were looking forward to, because we were going to see whether Joseph Parker is the real deal. Because Takam is a decent boxer, decent skills, decent power. He will give a lot of people a run for their money. And we know that Joseph Parker, good movement, good power, great combinations, phenomenal double, triple jab, but For me, this fight showed up some vulnerabilities that Parker has. Now, I scored this fight 6 rounds to 5 in favour of Parker. 1 round didn't feel that anyone really got the better of it, and I decided not to give anyone that round. So Parker won that fight on my card, but 6-5. So an incredibly close matchup. But as I say, it showed up some vulnerabilities, particularly defensive. Now, in the heavyweight division, defense is usually the area that most guys have a problem with. Doesn't matter whether they're decent level or top level. A lot of guys have a problem with defense, and there's only a few guys out there that really have decent defense, and even then, that doesn't really do enough for them. Now, Parker does have defensive vulnerabilities. He has a good chin. Takam landed quite a few times with decent power, and Parker was able to suck it in. But what I mean is that there were times where Parker really should have got his hands up. He should have done some kind of defensive work. He didn't, and he allowed those punches to come in. When he didn't really need to, because, as I say, he does have some good movement, both body and feet, and he could have avoided some of those shots. He decided to take them, and it's never going to help you when you're eating punches. So that is somewhat of a problem. I don't think it's going to be a problem in this specific fight. I just can't see that being an issue. The other chink in the armour that I saw from Parker was that he didn't really keep to his game plan. He got tired and he didn't keep to his game plan. As I say, phenomenal jab, movement, combinations. And really, if he'd kept Takam at range, it would have been an easy night's work. Instead, he allowed Takam to wear him down, which did become a problem in the middle rounds. So Sullivan, Haumono, right? Parker's guys came out after the Takam fight and said that they're basically going to be announcing the fights shortly, and it's going to be a Joshua kind of clone opponent. If you think Haumono is a Joshua clone, you got problems, because yes, he may be coming in phenomenal shape, but he's not going to offer the same problems that Joshua has, primarily because Anthony Joshua has some of the craziest power in the heavyweight division at the moment, and to some degree Joshua doesn't have to concern himself with defense, because he's able to inflict damage and hurt his opponents to such extent that they're kind of hesitant to build their own attacks. And we kind of saw that with Dominic Brazil. He just was a complete punch bag. Dominic Brazil wasn't able to close the distance, and every time he did, he took a flush punch, and it really kind of wore him down until he was stopped. Now, I think if anything, Haumono is going to be almost like a weaker version of Takam, where the only chance he has is trying to get in close and trying to wear down Parker. He's not going to be trying to outbox Parker, which Anthony Joshua will be doing. Anthony Joshua has superior skills and power. So I can't see that this fight really helps Parker in terms of learning how he's going to be able to beat Anthony Joshua. I think he would have been beneficial to have maybe taken another 6 to 8 weeks off and gone in the ring with a much higher competition opponent. Now, in terms of the IBF, he is the #1 mandatory challenger, but he's not fought any of the guys beneath him. In fact, Joseph Parker hasn't really fought anyone top level apart from Carlos Takam. So in terms of the IBF rankings, at the moment we've got like Pulev, Hay, Duhaupas, Andy Ruiz, Klitschko, Molina, Brazil, Martin, Chisora. We've got David Price, Hugh Fury, Miller, Stavern. I think some of these fights might be more beneficial, just maybe just to keep building his name up, build up his CV. Like someone like Stavern, I think, yes, he doesn't. He's not similar to Anthony Joshua in the slightest, in the slightest. But that would be a real solid opponent to kind of keep building your way up in the game. Maybe fight like another bigger guy. Like it might be interesting to see whether if Charles Martin has got any desire still, that might be a good opponent to get him in the ring because he's a reasonably sized guy. He has got some skills. Yeah, he was completely embarrassed by Joshua, but we need to see fights for Parker where he's really going to learn things because Parker's still a young guy. He's incredibly exciting. He's one of the most exciting boxers of all divisions, specifically heavyweight, and we need to see him tested before really being put in the ring with one of the top guys. And I don't know whether the Joshua fight's going to happen shortly. They were making noise. Anthony Joshua mentioned his name in the ring after defeating Dominic Brazil. There's been a lot of noise whether they're going to think about making this fight this year. As I've said, I would be more inclined to want to see someone like David Haye in the ring with Anthony Joshua first. Let Joseph Parker let it simmer. Let him kind of keep building until he's a top guy, and let him see some of these other guys that I just mentioned. He could get in the ring with any of those guys and really start to build a credible CV before being thrown into the ring for a title. The likes of Brazil and Martin have done, and kind of their career, I believe, is considerably damaged off the back of the fights against Anthony Joshua. So I believe that this fight, Joseph Parker, Sullivan, Haumono, it's going to be a stoppage, I believe. I think it's going to be mid-round stoppage, probably five or sixth round stoppage. I don't think Haumono is going to have really much to offer. I think Parker's going to be too quick around the ring. He's going to be landing shots at will, and he's going to wear him down, and he's going to stop him. There was one other thing that I just wanted to quickly mention was that Joseph Parker came out and said that he had elbow and back injuries in the run-up to the Takam fight, and also they had hindered him in his previous fight. So it's very strange that he decided to take another fight at such short notice, not really giving himself chance to relax and heal and sort out those problems. So I don't know whether they are genuine problems, whether they really hindered him in the Takam fight, or whether they're just excuses for poor performance. We'll find out in this fight to some extent, and then we can start talking about really where Joseph Parker goes next. But as I say, I'd like to see him in with someone credible before he takes on a top guy. So my prediction: 5th or 6th round stoppage. Easy night's work for Joseph Parker. I've been Teekosey. This has been with just 15 defeats.